It's time for the second part in these videos I'm making where I just talk about all the things I've read and watched since last March. In this installment, I'm going to be talking about all the movies that I've watched, so I'm just going to go through them. Yes, let's take out my Notion with my very detailed list of all the things. I almost forgot. Today for this video, I want to showcase my favorite plant that I own. She's amazing. Her name is Eevee, not after the Pokemon, although I do really like the Pokemon, but after the drag queen, Eevee Oddly. Anyways, because when I got her, I was like, this is an odd little thingy. She's, I think, a staghorn fern. She kind of reminds me of dinosaurs. The internet says that these are hard to take care of, but this is like one of my least problematic plants. Okay, the first movie I'm going to talk about is a movie that I've been wanting to watch for a very long time, and everybody talks about it and loves it, and I just watched it for the first time, and that is Pride and Prejudice. The Keira Knightley one. It's one of those typical like cottagecore period pieces that everybody loves. It sounds like the perfect movie to me, and I have to say, when I first started watching it, I was like, wow, this is the perfect movie for me, because everything that was happening was just, I was just like, can I live there? Especially at the beginning, there's like a dance party, but like, you know, like an old school dance party, and everybody wears pretty dresses and they do their hair all fancy, and then they like dance together, like everyone like dance. I just wanted to be there so bad, and I wanted to be Keira Knightley. But then the further the movie went on, the less interested I became. I don't know if it's because I was just not that into the love interest, which is weird because it's kind of like enemies to lovers, which is my favorite trope in romance. But Mr. Darcy just like doesn't do it for me. I'm like, Keira Knightley, you can do better. I don't know. It dragged on a little bit. In the end, I did enjoy it, and I would watch it again for the aesthetic because, oh my god. But I did think the story dragged on a little bit, and I think the movie could have been like half an hour shorter. So the next movie I watched is Fun with Dick and Jane. This is a rom-com, I guess. It's got like my favorite actor of all time in it, Jim Carrey. If you didn't know, Jim Carrey is probably my favorite actor. I'm just like obsessed with everything he does. And I hadn't watched this one. Fun with Dick and Jane is basically the story of a married couple. They run into some financial problems and decide to do crime to fix their financial problems, and that's where the comedy comes in. I think it's a really fun concept, and I think the chemistry between the married couple was my favorite part of the entire thing. I really loved watching them play off of each other. However, the pacing was very weird. I never really knew what the point was, like where this was all leading to, and like not in a good way. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like the execution of it and the pacing of it. It was very weird. Then I watched another comedy. I watched The Invention of Lying. This one has Ricky Gervais and Jennifer Garner in it. And this was another disappointment. This was an even bigger disappointment. This movie is about the invention of lying. It takes place in a world where lying doesn't exist. People always tell the truth, and like literally there is no such thing as lying. And then Ricky Gervais' character, who, you know, he's like not a lucky guy, I guess, realizes that, hey, wait, what if I just don't tell the truth? What if I just make something up? And like, no one's ever like even thought of that before. From there, it just snowballs and things get out of hand, basically, which is a really cool concept. When I heard what this movie was about, I immediately wanted to watch it because I thought it was a really genius concept. I just thought the execution was terrible. After the initial sort of gimmick of everybody tells the truth wore off, it was just kind of like, what the hell's going on? This movie takes turns that you don't expect. Just roads were taken that shouldn't have been taken, I personally think. I just thought it was a really messy movie. No, not a big fan. The next movie I watched was Marriage Story. This is one of the movies that I've been wanting to watch for a very long time, and I just never did because I was intimidated by what it was about. I just thought it would be too sad. I think most people know, but if you don't know, Marriage Story is a movie about a couple going through divorce. My heart You know, it's got Adam Driver in it and Scarlett Johansson. I quite liked it. I actually really liked it. Yeah, it was kind of depressing and stuff, but it was also funny at times. Like, it had like more lighthearted moments as well. What I loved about this was how real it felt. It shows like a real relationship, like both the good and the bad. It's like how two people can like love each other for so many reasons. Like, they can name so many things they like about the other person and admire about the other person, and it's just somehow it just doesn't, it like, you know, it just doesn't work. And I don't know, it just felt very real and raw, and I really liked that. I was there the entire time. My heart was in it the entire time I was watching. And then I went on a little bit of an Oscar wave. I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. This movie is about Ma Rainey, who was a very influential blues singer back in the 1920s, I believe. This movie takes place in Chicago in a recording studio where she is recording something. In that sense, it's a very small scale movie. Everything takes place on this one day in this one recording studio, and it's, I don't know, it seemed very character focused to me. It's about her and her influence in the music industry, but also the people around her, her band. I think this movie was sort of small in scale, but really big on emotions. That's what I love. It just sort of felt like a character study, and I really loved it. I really loved Chadwick Boseman's character. He had so much passion in him, and like, I love characters like that, you know, that are just balls of fire, that are like, the passion and the fire in them is so beautiful, but it's also so volatile, and you can like see him sort of tip on the edge during the entire movie. The next movie I watched was Two Distant Strangers. This was another Oscar movie. I think it won something. I'm not like an Oscar buff or anything, so I don't really know. But this is a short film that is about police brutality and systematic racism in the United States. Let me tell you, this movie kind of broke me. I thought this movie was gonna be about a man and his dog. Like, I'm telling you now, I didn't know what this movie was about at all. When I clicked play, I literally just saw like, oh, this one had an Oscar, oh yeah, let's watch it. And it starts off with this guy and his dog and stuff, and I was like, this is gonna be about a guy and his dog, and I was so excited about it. And then it just like took a turn. It's about a black man. He wakes up after a one-night stand, and he's ready to go back home to his own apartment because his dog is waiting for him there. Then, you know, police. I don't need to say anything more. It's a very trippy movie. It has sort of like tinges of comedy in it, but it also feels kind of like a horror movie. It feels a little bit like a Black Mirror episode. It really like sort of messes with your head. I think it was just done really, really well. I think the guy who played the main character, amazing job. Now, after I watched this, you know, I was very impressed by it, so I was like looking up stuff about this movie online. I found out that a lot of people are angry at this movie because it's like apparently ripped off someone else's short story, and that was called Groundhog Day for a Black Man. So I decided that I should watch Groundhog Day for a Black Man as well, because that would be only fair, right? It is also a short film. It's very much the same concept, you know, Groundhog Day for a Black Man. You can guess what it's like with the police thing and stuff. It is different in the sense that this one focuses a lot more on the comedy aspect. I quite liked it, but I can't help but like the other one better. I did like Groundhog Day for a Black Man as well. Then the next movie I watched was something a little more lighthearted. I watched Luca. Now, I'm gonna try to keep this as concise as possible. The problem is, like, I could talk about Luca for hours. I could make a video just about Luca, but I'm gonna try not to do that. I'm gonna try to... I have so many feelings. How am I gonna... Okay.
It's so gay.
Yeah, that was my husband. That is also one of the opinions I have. Where do I start? I love the vibe of this movie so much. I love how small scale it feels, especially compared to a lot of other Pixar things as of late. You know, how you had Soul and like Inside Out. They're very like complicated, big concepts. And I love Soul, by the way. Like I love those types of movies, but it was so nice to see something different from Pixar, something that didn't have to be this epic thing. It could just be a small little cute little story that has so much heart and is just nice. It almost felt like watching a Ghibli movie in the sense that it was very atmospheric rather than like plot heavy. Luca is about two boys who live in a little seaside town in Italy called Porto Rosso. That's a Ghibli reference, by the way. The catch is they are secretly sea monsters. They are, when they go in the water, they're mermen. Sea monsters. It's basically H2O. And they can't let anybody know that they're sea monsters because everybody in this town hates sea monsters. But they just love being there and all they want is a Vespa. That's what the whole movie is about. It's two boys and they just want their Vespa so they can like ride off into the sunset together, and it's just, that's all it needs to be. If this doesn't sound exciting, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's all just about the vibes. It's about the atmosphere. I loved how much care and attention to detail was put into this Italian town. The culture was so apparent. All the characters, even not the main characters, were so beautifully fleshed out. My favorite character was probably the dad figure. And then I haven't even talked about how gay it is. I get that's the discussion, Pixar came out and said it wasn't supposed to be gay, but let's be real, I feel like they only said that so that they can sell copies in China and Russia and stuff, so like, that's fine. I don't really care what Pixar says. You can interpret this movie however you want. However, I personally advocate for the gay angle because there are virtually no LGBT movies like this. They don't exist. How many movies do you know that have a child as a protagonist that is a member of the LGBTQ community? They don't exist. Children, gay protagonists don't exist in movies. Whenever characters in movies are gay, it's usually teenagers, and then it's a lot about like the sexual part of it, or it's adults, and then again it's like there's always such a focus on like the sexual part of it. And I would just love if a movie could just be about two kids who have like their first crush and it happens to be gay. I just wish that that was like a thing, because it's just not. It doesn't exist. And this movie is such a beautiful example of that. And I think that for young LGBT people, because there are so many kids out there like that and they have no representation, and this would just be very nice. And I just think it would be nice. But I'm gonna stop talking about it now because I feel like I've been talking about Luca for quite a while now, and I have a lot of other movies to talk about. The next movie I watched is not a movie, it's a musical that I watched on YouTube. It is a Star Kid musical called Annie. I love Star Kid. I've seen a lot of their productions, most of their productions I think, but I hadn't seen Annie yet. If you don't know, Star Kid is a theater production company. I don't know the real terms for this. They're most famous, I think, for the Harry Potter musical that they did, the Harry Potter sequel. Annie is a Star Wars parody about Anakin Skywalker. This is probably not one of my favorite of Star Kids musicals. I still laughed out loud a lot. I thought it was really funny, but I don't think it's their best work. I think it might also have to do with the fact that the music didn't stick with me as much. I think Star Kid does musicals so well. Their music is so well crafted. But yeah, this musical didn't stick with me as much as the other ones. So the next movie I watched is a movie called Epic. I remember seeing the trailer for this way back in the day, and then I never ended up watching it. And also I felt like nobody ever talked about this movie. This movie is about this teenage girl who has to go live with her dad, and her dad is kind of like this crazy science-y nature guy. He lives in the middle of the forest in this house, and she's not into it. Her dad says that he's convinced that there are little tiny people living in the woods. Of course, she doesn't believe him, but then she ends up meeting these little creatures, and she ends up by accident turning into one of these tiny little people, and then she goes on this big adventure. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this movie. I didn't have big expectations, but this was really cute, and it had heart, and in the end I was really touched by it. I loved the whole aspect of her having to reconnect with her family and stuff. I thought the world building was also really fun, and I kind of wish there was a sequel so that we could see more of this world, because I really thought there were some really cool original concepts. What I didn't like was the character design. I thought the character design was very boring, to be honest. The soundtrack was good though. Danny Elfman did the soundtrack, did a really good job. The next movie I watched was another 3D animated movie, Raya and the Dragon. I waited until this one was for free to watch on Disney Plus, but then I watched it immediately because I was quite hyped for this movie. If you don't know what it's about, oh god, how do I explain this? It's about this world in which there used to be dragons, and the dragons kind of protected the humans, but then all the dragons died, and now there's kind of like bad stuff in the world. And the story is about Raya, who goes to look for the last dragon to sort of, you know, restore peace. And yeah, I hope this, I'm not very good at explaining the plots of movies, even the ones that I've watched. What you need to know is that it's a very like action-packed adventure story with dragons. I also thought it was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to hate the dragon character, but I actually thought she wasn't that annoying. I thought she was quite funny at times. Also, one of my new favorite Disney characters of all time, the little boy, if you've seen the movie, you know, that little boy on the boat, it made me laugh so much. I love that boy. He's my favorite character, hands down. Best boy. The only negative I have for this movie, and it is quite a big crutch, is that this movie was very big. See, Disney created this whole world with all these like different areas with their different cultures, and there was just so much story to tell. It's only one movie, and I feel like they tried to put too much into one movie, and therefore it kind of felt like we were rushing through things, and it's kind of sad because the world they've built is so beautiful, and I wish we had more time to explore it at a more languid pace so that we could just like really take it in and like take in the storyline as well a little bit better, and take in the characters' motivations a little bit better, and really like dig a little deeper. And that's just not possible in just one movie. So I kind of think this would have been better if they'd made it like a show, like you know, like The Mandalorian, just made it like a Disney Plus show with like 12 episodes, so that we really could have like gotten deeper into the meat of the story. I just think that would have been better. I'm really sad that it's only this one movie because I just feel like there was so much more to explore that we didn't get to explore. But that doesn't take away that I really, really love this world, and I want to watch this movie again already. Then I watched another movie with a dragon in it, and it's also 3D animated. I think it's called The Wish Dragon. It's on Netflix. This one, I really wasn't sure what to expect. Like, this could easily have been a terrible movie, but it was like probably the biggest surprise of the year, movie-wise for me. I cried and cried and cried watching this movie. It's about this boy who wants to reconnect with his childhood best friend. His childhood best friend has kind of become this almost like idol superstar. Anyway, she's famous. He looks up to her, and you know, they used to be best friends, and he always has this dream of like reconnecting with her. Very adorable. He comes across the Wish Dragon, who is basically the genie from Aladdin. He will grant him 3 wishes. This movie is definitely the story of Aladdin and the genie reworked into this sort of modern fairy tale way, and I think it's done really, really well. Our main character, he is just the sweetest guy, and you just can't help but root for him so much. The dragon, again, I was very scared that I would find them annoying, but I loved the dragon, and I cared about the dragon, and I wanted the dragon to be okay as well. Like, I just loved every single character in this. I was scared that this movie was going to be like a very cliche childhood friends to lovers fanfic-ish remake of Aladdin, but it's so much more than that. I really, really highly recommend you watch this movie because I think a lot of people dismiss it and just like don't even try to watch it, but I just thought it was really good. Also, the story doesn't go where you think it's gonna go. That's one of the things I like the most. There were like plot twists that I 100% did not see coming. I don't know, I just think it's great. And I think more people should watch it because I have heard literally 0 people talk about this movie. And then I have one more movie to talk about, and that's one that I think most people know. It's Joker. Again, I'm late to the party. If by any chance you don't know what this is about, it's the origin story of the Joker from Batman. It's about this guy in Gotham who has some issues, and you can kind of slowly watch him turn into the Joker. This one, my expectations were maybe a little bit too high. I really love these types of movies about bad guys and like why they are the way they are, that kind of stuff. I think the performance in this was really, really good, but I remember in the middle of the movie thinking like, is this really all it's gonna be? I liked it, but I don't know, I guess maybe my expectations were too high. I think some people talked about how this movie sort of glorifies or justifies, psychopathic behavior or whatever. As if like people watching this movie would sort of see Joaquin Phoenix's character as a hero or something like that. And like, I get it in a way. I get how some people can use stories like this to justify terrible behavior, and that is just never okay. I personally love stories like this because they just show humanity. Mental illness is a thing, man, and people go crazy because of all kinds of reasons. That's not justifying their behavior. If you do something shitty, that's shitty. Your mental illness doesn't excuse it. However, I think it's important to see that we are all humans deep down and that we do things because of, a culmination of everything that we've experienced in our lives. Yes, psychopaths are human, whether you like it or not. They're not monsters, I don't want to get too deep into this whole conversation, but I personally am just very interested in like the psychological aspects of these types of movies. And so I really enjoyed that part of the movie, and I thought it was good. Okay, so I've been talking for way too long. If you're still watching, hi, I love you. That's gonna be all for this video. Next up will be TV shows. Stay tuned for that one, I guess. See ya.